right now on 5 on Your Side at 10.
History made just moments ago.
I accept your nomination to be President of the United States of America.
The first woman of color officially accepts a major party's presidential nomination. We're live from the DNC in Chicago.
Weekend warm. As temperatures climb, there may be some isolated rain. We're tracking where that weekend rain would have more of an impact.
Our top story, an early morning shootout with police rattles a Metro East neighborhood.
I'm hit. I'm hit. My dog is hit as well.
Tonight, a suspect is dead, an officer injured, and an apartment in mourning over the loss of a beloved police canine. Tonight, the injured Alton police officer shot in that shootout is recovering at home. Good evening. I'm Kelly Jackson.
And I'm Mike Bush. The officer's canine partner, Odin, and the shooting suspect were both killed. 5 on Your Side's Robert Townsend has the latest.
Long before sunrise,
just surreal that that's your alarm clock.
Startled neighbors in this Alton area first heard the gunfire.
Got 3 kids in the house. What any parent would do when they hear multiple gunshots, you run and find your kids and you make sure that they're safe.
They then saw lots of police officers and sheriff's deputies rush to East 6th and Liberty. Police say a man got into a shootout with officers.
I'm hit. I'm hit.
Alton police officer, 27-year-old Alan Averback, suffered a gunshot wound.
My dog is hit as well. My dog is down.
His beloved canine partner was also shot. Odin died from his injuries.
The loss of Odin is not just a loss of a service animal, but of a loyal companion and a trusted team member.
That's a shame. No, we're animal lovers.
Officer Averback and Odin had only worked together for a few months.
They are just as brave as the officers who are, on the street.
Investigators have not said what prompted the suspect to exchange gunfire with officers. So at this point, investigators have still remained extremely tight-lipped about the shooting that happened in this neighborhood, and they haven't told us much about the man they call a suspect.
There are no suspects, other suspects being sought.
Hours after losing their beloved canine, dozens of police canine units from across the state honored Odin during this procession through the city.
We mourn the loss of a dedicated member of our police force.
In Alton, Robert Townsend, 5 on Your Side.
Mayor Goins says a woman was shot in that same area last night, but he would not confirm if that shooting was connected to the one that involved the officers.
Charges have been filed in a deadly overnight shooting in Imperial. Prosecutors have charged 20-year-old Chapter Wagner of Arnold with first-degree murder. He is accused of shooting and killing Timothy Geitst of St. Louis. The victim was found shot to death in the driver's seat of a car parked on Lombard Lane near Golden Gate Drive. That is in a subdivision off Seckman Road. Investigators believe the shooting was isolated and targeted. Wagner is being held without bond. And tonight we know the identity of the teen killed in a shooting in Lee May. 16-year-old Amarian Fuller was shot on Getz Avenue on Tuesday. Police don't believe the shooting was self-inflicted and are investigating his death as suspicious.
Tonight, an inmate who almost avoided execution may be facing death row again. Yesterday, a judge approved a deal for Marcellus Williams to serve life in prison instead of being executed next month for the 1998 murder of Leisha Gale. However, the Missouri Attorney General and the Supreme Court blocked the order, saying the circuit court lacked authority to override the sentence. Those close to him say Williams is still in good spirits.
Honestly, he called to check on me. He was like, "Oh, you doing okay?" I'm like, "Where you at? You okay?" Like, "I'm good. Are you?" And that's the person he is. He's very caring about other people. He was just making some calls to make sure that his friends and family are okay.
A hearing for Williams is set for next Wednesday. Well, it's a cool August night in St. Louis. Temperatures dropping into the 50s. Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell says a big weekend warm-up is on tap.
A big weekend warm-up definitely on the way. And you could see that just past full moon rising in the sky tonight. It's still pretty bright under a mostly clear sky. Of course, Busch Stadium all settled this evening after that fine win this afternoon over at the ballpark. Frankie will talk more about that. Or maybe it's Corey. in just a little bit. Well, here's what we're looking at across the region. We have some clouds that rolled through. They've now slid onto the south and east of St. Louis, so mostly clear conditions for the rest of the night. We're in the upper 60s already in town. Outlying areas already dropping in some cases close to that 60-degree mark. We have 60 in Eureka. Arnold's down to 59. So is Millstadt and Alton. It is another very comfortable night ahead of a warmer weekend. Overnight temperatures dropping into the 50s, around 60 in St. Louis. Not quite as cool as it was for tomorrow morning, this morning. This morning, a lot of us were in the 40s. 61 out the door tomorrow morning. Then we're back into the mid-60s by 8 o'clock. We'll look at mid to upper 80s for highs tomorrow afternoon, and even warmer for Saturday and Sunday.
New tonight, renewed hope in Kirkwood for youth ball fields set to be demolished. Neighbors are joining forces to do what they can do to prevent it. The city says it can no longer afford to keep it going. Brent Solomon takes us to a community meeting tonight where the public is determined to act.
Across from the vibrant Green Tree Park along the Merrimack River sits the less attractive former home of the Kirkwood Athletic Association. The 14 acres of land have sat vacant since several floods left it in disrepair. The city of Kirkwood says it doesn't have enough money to reopen it.
The number of kids that it had served over those years, you can't count. Served my kids, served me. It's been a big part of the community.
It's why school board member Ben Caffey is leading a grassroots effort to unite neighbors who want to save the ball fields. This is their first public meeting, more than what they expected.
Virtually everybody who's in the room tonight, and many hundreds, perhaps thousands more, played baseball down at Marshall Fields. They coached down there, and some of us did both. We played and coached.
Rick Stream is with the American Legion. The group hosted the meeting for anyone interested in their fight. Demolition was set to happen in July, but City Council agreed to delay that when neighbors started uniting. A few council members showed up Thursday. Time is of the essence, according to one council member, Al Rainnecker, telling the group tonight, "We can't have this meeting 3 years from now and nothing's happened." Now the group is working to determine the best use of the site. Should it remain baseball and softball fields, or should other sports like lacrosse, soccer, or pickleball come in? Depending on what they decide, the price tag could be tens of thousands or even six figures.
We got to get the fields back into shape. We probably can't do anything for this year or even this fall, but for next spring we'd like to be able to open the fields for competitive play.
Brent Solomon, 5 on your side.
City leaders say trees and 5 buildings need to be torn down, including the concession stand, which is already falling. Fuel tanks on the property have already been removed. To contact the organizer of the plan to revive the ball fields, visit this story in the As Seen on TV section of KSDK.com.
Arnold residents are now trying to remove city council members who support a new parkway project. The 2-mile project would connect Richardson Road to 141, but it would displace more than 30 families and force some businesses to move. Residents are collecting signatures in hopes to recall those members, as well as the mayor and city treasurer. One legal expert says it's a strategy that's proven to work.
Focus on making the case to their fellow citizens that this is just a project that should not go forward. In other words, they can focus on public relations in trying to persuade their neighbors, don't do this, and if the city insists on it, let's vote the bums out. That has been a very effective tactic.
Residents can voice their concerns to the City Council at their next meeting on September the 5th. A group of Missourians are upping the ante to keep sports betting off the November ballot. A new lawsuit claims the method used to get the amendment on the ballot was unconstitutional. The plaintiffs say the Secretary of State's office used the old state district lines to collect signatures, arguing they wouldn't have enough if they used the current districts. The Secretary of State's office has not commented on the lawsuit.
And Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft is rejecting an executive order to protect Missouri children from unregulated hemp products. Earlier this month, Governor Mike Parson ordered stores to remove products that contain hemp, but not cannabis, saying the packaging is often marketed towards children. Ashcroft's office says the order needs to go through the standard rules procedure and not be implemented too quickly. The order was supposed to take effect September 1st. Now it may take 6 months.
In the greatest nation on earth, I accept your nomination to be President of the United
16 years after Barack Obama and 8 years after Hillary Clinton, history is once again made at the Democratic National Convention. Tonight, Vice President Kamala Harris became the first woman of color to formally accept a major party's nomination for president.
And the celebration is just wrapping up in Chicago. Harris's quick ascent to the top of the ticket has re-energized the Democratic Party. 5 on Your Side political editor Mark Maxwell joins us now live from the United Center, where the vice president just laid out her message to the American voters. Mark.
Mike and Kelly, good evening from Chicago. Tonight we saw Kamala Harris, the prosecutor, Kamala Harris, the politician, and Kamala Harris, the potential president, cross-stitching a coalition of voters across the country, a path she thinks can lead her to the White House as president, the first female president in our nation's history. She jumped right into general election mode. That was evident by the names and faces we saw sharing the stage with her. Police, veterans, victims of mass shootings, victims of human trafficking. Even Republicans joined her on stage tonight, flexing her appeal across party lines. And her rhetoric offered voters watching from home, maybe voters who were down on the deja vu of Joe Biden and Donald Trump in a rematch, she offered them a new way forward.
Our nation with this election has a precious, fleeting opportunity to move past the bitterness, cynicism, and divisive battles of the past, a chance to chart a new way forward. Not as members of any one party or faction, but as Americans.
Then she reprised her role as a prosecutor and laid out the case against Donald Trump, also wrapped abortion access in the packaging of personal freedom and choice, and tied the consequences of many of the strict abortion bans we've seen strictly and firmly around the neck of Donald Trump.
Stories of women miscarrying in a parking lot, developing sepsis, losing the ability to ever again have children, all because doctors are afraid they may go to jail for caring for their patients.
We also heard some big picture policy aims, like Harris pledging to pass the border bill that Trump and Republicans killed, the one that was a bipartisan border security bill there. Also, she called to bring an end to the violence in Israel and Gaza and bring all the hostages home. That's rhetoric we've already heard. Now it's on to the campaign trail and the first debate, where Kamala Harris will ask Americans to make her the first woman president in American history.
And Mark, we've heard the term convention bump. You've been covering politics a long time. How long does a convention bump usually last, and will this year be any different because of the unique circumstances?
Well, Kamala Harris had that initial bump right before she came in here, just the excitement and energy. We saw some evidence of that because she had more donors in the first 10 days of her campaign than Joe Biden had in the entire 15 months of his entire campaign. So she had that pre-convention bump. Tonight, Democrats are about to go home and continue the campaign, and it seems like she's picking up steam. Perhaps we'll see that in the polling in the days and weeks to come. But for now, we've got, 75 days to go until the election? A lot of time left for these two candidates to square off and make their cases to the American public. In Chicago, Mark Maxwell, 5 on Your Side.
And Mark will have a full wrap-up of the DNC on this week's edition of The Record. It airs Sunday night at 11, right after Sports Plus.
A couple's hopes turned to heartache in an instant.
That could have been my chance to have a child.
They spent thousands of dollars at a St. Louis fertility clinic, only to be told their embryo was lost.
They made a mistake, they screwed up.
Tonight, the I-Team uncovers they may not be alone.
Finally feeling more like summertime this weekend, we're tracking the pattern change, bringing the heat and maybe some rain or storms to the bi-state region. We'll track that in 7 minutes.